Shemai Pretty, hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Anwyn for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And this is the second part of a Retro 50s Diner build for a restaurant. So if you haven't seen the first part, I'll put it up in the iCards, but it should kind of still make sense if you just fancy watching this one. It's no big deal. And my favorite thing to do with restaurants and like food shops in Planet Zoo is create a menu using the editable sign, and I like to actually add the actual menu of the restaurant on a real sign. So I always check what's actually being sold in the restaurant or the food shop. With the restaurant, you kind of just have what is in the restaurant. I wish you could kind of pick different things you could add in, and I thought I'd make the menu shiny metal so it matches in with the walls of the diner itself. Trying to get all of the fonts or the size of the writing to be exactly the same is really hard with these editable signs though. You kind of have to make sure that you have enough words in there to make sure that it's like the right size for each one. Sometimes I'll have to like take words out of what it is actually called, and sometimes I have to add some words in to make it have the right font size. And I like to play around with the font itself as well. So this one is, I think it was the Orbit something maybe. And I was thinking about trying to fill in a little gap between the booths and the bathroom on the interior, and I was thinking of different 50s diner items. What would you have in these diners? And something I was thinking of from the original Life is Strange game, because there's a diner in that actually that I was sort of thinking of. Not quite replicating though. This is just something, an amalgamation of all different 50s diners that I've managed to create in this. I've just mashed them all together. But I thought something that just shouts 50s diner to me is a jukebox. It was really fun to try and make something like this using the new neon lights with like the curved pieces going across the top of the jukebox, and then using the art shapes to create the jukebox shape itself. And for like the music display, I picked the memorial image thing because it was the smallest one that I could find, and you can change the image on the board itself. And I used a fence for the texture for the front as well. But that was a really quick way of having like a nice pattern on the front of the jukebox. And I actually used the music speakers as well, so the jukebox was actually usable as a jukebox, so it will actually play music for your guests in the restaurant. And I added in some candles as well to kind of look like salt shakers on the booth tables. And for a quick way of centering the candles or something on the tables like this, if you select position snap on the settings, if you click that before you put the candles down, they will automatically snap into the center of the booth table. I think at this point I thought I need to stop putting off the exterior. I had more of an idea for what the interior looked like than the exterior. Like I said, this is an amalgamation of lots of different 50s diners. I couldn't decide what I actually wanted to do. So this is probably the trickiest part of the whole build, and why I needed to split the video into two, because the exterior walls and the roof were like the hardest thing ever to do. My artistic direction of this build really hindered me. I had too many different ideas, I think. I didn't want to like close off that like a little divot. I really liked that divot. I thought it was unique, kind of futuristic, spacey sort of. I don't know. I'm trying to like go back 70 years ago, what they thought the world would look like now. I played around with so many different columns to try and get those curved edges, but still have a definition of that divot on the center, having the divot have a curved corner and having the wider corner as well. And if you did watch the last video, you may have noticed the fact that I tried to make everything symmetrical when I was building these walls. I didn't succeed. Trying to finish off these corners with those curved pieces, I realized that none of my sides were actually symmetrical. It's lucky that I do have a slightly asymmetrical entrance to this, because otherwise it would be very obvious that I did not make both sides exactly the same. And probably if I didn't point it out, you may not have noticed, but I don't really give a shit, I'll point it out. So I actually had to redo a lot of the walls, and this is why this video is more of an exterior part of the build than the interior, because I realised that the side walls and the back wall, I hadn't done the little divot in the wall, I'd only done that on the front, so I needed to play around with the walls a little bit more to create these divots, but I just didn't know what to do for the roof. The easiest thing is obviously just doing a flat roof, but that just wasn't really what I wanted to do, because even though I haven't really done New Year's resolutions, I have decided in myself that I don't want to just settle for a build when I'm just about happy with it. I want to be proud of the builds that I put out on the internet and proud of the builds that I create on Planet Zoo. So I was determined to get this done and make it how I wanted it to look, and not just give up and just do a flat roof. So I used the curved art-shaped pieces. They're not quite round, they're not quite rectangular. It's been a long time since I learned my shapes. I really need to pay more attention to what these shapes are called, but you can kind of see what it is. And I thought I could use that as like a curved roof piece. Use the panels for the roofing instead of the flat floor piece, but still use the flat floor pieces to make sure that I had built it evenly on both sides. And I was still looking from the interior of the building as well to see how the interior looked as well as the exterior, and I didn't really like how the art shapes connected to the flat wall pieces, so I thought I would try and do like a flat roof but with a curved top to it to blend in the curved pieces with the flat pieces. Joined two of my roofing ideas together, so we'd have that curved piece but still have like the flat diner style roof as well. I thought I'd add in a bit more of a pop of colour in this too. So I've gone with the vintage red colour. If you haven't seen the last video, the colour scheme of this is black, white and red with the metal texture, and the red colour that I have chosen is actually called vintage red, and I just googled a vintage red colour and used the hex number code to add it into Planet Zoo. I thought I would then have a higher centre point on the roof to line up with the art pieces. So the roof has two different layers to it now. So we've got that bottom layer which is more like a frame, and then the roof is raised in the center of the art shaped pieces. Make the ceiling a little higher on the interior as well then, to make it feel like it was less cramped inside the building. I do find most buildings in Planet Zoo feel a little bit claustrophobic once the roof is on, but that's just because I spend so much time without a roof that I kind of feel all closed in once I actually add one in. And if you could click on the T key on the keyboard, it will change the way that your camera moves. You can see like the little circle buttons on the right side of the UI on the bottom next to where you would change the time of day. You have a little camera icon, and you can either click that or click T on the keyboard, and you can change the way that your camera rotates. And once you're in like cramped areas like this, I like to put it on so the circle will change to green. So the camera will stay in one spot but like look both ways, instead of when you rotate, you'll rotate your whole person. You can stay in a spot and look. I still thought that it was kind of cramped after I'd raised the roof a little bit, so I thought I would add in some skylights as well, just above where I've put the booth seating. And I've used the Africa Pack stained glass for the roof pieces. I think it makes it look a little bit more interesting for the roof, at least, so it's not all silver. And I had planned on using the Africa Pack tiles again to do like a smaller checkerboard pattern underneath the windows. But I thought that would add in a lot of object in the build if I'd done individual tiles like that, especially all the way around the build. But these glass windows sort of have the same pattern on them. It would have taken so long to do and so many different objects to create this checkerboard pattern with the tiles, and the windows are just a quick and easy way of adding in that pattern. I decided to add in a plaster strip right at the top underneath the flat roof to add in like a painted part of the wall. So this part is going to be that vintage red colour, so I was thinking it would be more like painted rather than plaster, because it doesn't really go with the metal structure. So this part is just going to be like a painted stripe. Even though it's plaster, we'll just ignore the texture. I didn't really like this entrance part. It was my least favourite part, so I played around with it a little bit more. I decided to add in a strip of red like I'd done for the rest of the building. I thought that would make it feel a little bit more consistent with the rest of the building, so it wasn't all silver. And I just decided to use this curved editable sign for the entrance sign of the diner because it fit in nicely above that glass cover, and it was shiny too, so I changed it to like a silvery grey colour, and it was also shiny because I think it's kind of plasticky, but because it's shiny it matches in really nicely with the metal walls. And just some finishing touches on the interior now. Guests couldn't see, but like I can see the top of the restaurant blueprint building. I've been talking for almost 2 hours now. It doesn't seem like it for you because I cut these videos up so much, but I've been talking for almost 2 hours now, and that's generally a lot longer than I usually do. I'm slowly running out of things to say, even though I have so much to explain. But yeah, I needed to cover these parts up. I didn't like how they looked. I'm so glad it's done now though. That's like, it took me like 4 or 5 days to actually complete this in separate different chunks to get the ideas sort of together. This was so detailed. It was hard to continuously do these things. I just needed to give my brain a little break every now and again, do some other things like editing and stuff, because this build was so difficult to get finished. And the last little thing I actually did want to do was add a few more neon lights on the exterior of the build, just below the flat roof on the red painted part of the wall, just so it would like glow up on the roof to light it up a little bit more red. And I had seen on some of the reference images that some neon lights were stripped on the roof, but I didn't want it completely on the roof. I just wanted it slightly below the roof to make the shiny metal roof glow red too. Now we've completed the restaurant itself, I am going to put a habitat around the building. So the restaurant is going to technically be inside a habitat, so the guests could see an animal walk around outside the restaurant. So it may look a little bit boring, like scenery wise, around this building, but that is going to be next week. Now I'm going to build a habitat around this restaurant, but like I said, this build took me way too bloody long. I was not doing any more. We'll fix that next week now, and we'll make that a lot more interesting. And if you have any other ideas for habitats, builds, restaurant builds that could fit in with like this American, European theme, let me know in the comments, and also let me know whether you enjoyed this 50s diner. I know I have split this up into 2 videos, but you didn't have to wait long for it. I didn't do them in 2 different weeks. And I'm gonna leave it off there. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I usually upload on Wednesdays, but sometimes you'll have a bonus Saturday video like today, and I'm gonna leave it off there. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!